Okay,
Okay.
I think we're on.
I think we are live. I see a little live button,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think we're there.
All right.
Hey,
Let's
hey.
see. I'm gonna give you. Let's see. I'll give you 1 minute. I saw a really funny thing online.
Hmm.
It was perfect for today. It was someone who was getting ready for an interview, and they were sitting in their chair. They were ready. The minute the guest walked in, the interviewer was like, "All right, welcome to the show. What is your name? How are you doing?" And the guy, who was really funny, he said things that I probably can't repeat, but he was like, "Give me a minute. Give me a
Give
minute."
me just a
It
second.
was the way that they said it. It was so funny, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
don't don't do that today. And
Yep.
so, as long as I don't do that, I think we're gonna have a successful show.
No, absolutely. It's funny. I take obviously a very popular
Mhm.
podcast, Joe Rogan, and that guy, like him, don't like him, whatever you believe, whatever you feel. One thing I give to him is that he is an incredible. He has an incredible talent of soft launching his podcast and then pacing the program all the way through. So it's like, I mean, who on earth wants to sit through a 3 hour show? Well, I mean,
No,
he makes that interesting, and
it makes it.
you know,
Yeah,
at the very beginning, they just flip on. They're in the middle of talking, and God knows even what they're talking about. They're just,
Mhm.
they're not even worried that there is an audience. So I'm happy that there is. And oh, I see Oscar up there. Hey, Oscar, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, good, good. So it's starting to happen.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, hey, Oscar. Yeah, there we go. What's up, guys?
All right, it's
Okay,
the
so
real
let's
deal
get
now. It's
started.
live. We can't play anymore.
No, we can't play. Okay. So, good evening and thank you for attending the very first new Adjuster Hour live. Adjuster Hour started about a year ago, Josh. I don't know
Yeah.
if you knew that, but it started on a whim. One day I just said, "You know what? I'm going to create this virtual office hour. We're going to call it Adjuster Hour and we're just going to move on. Like
Yep.
that's what it's going to be called." And it started off really, really slow. I think one adjuster popped on, then maybe two. And then one day it took off,
Yeah.
and it just made me feel so happy every time I logged on and saw all those adjusters show up.
Yep.
Boy, it was the best feeling ever. And so I missed that and wanted to continue with adjuster hour, but kind of have a new format. So what you can expect moving forward is just like you're showing up today, having a guest host, a guest speaker, and really picking your brain and learning a little bit more about the industry that can be so complex.
Mhm.
It's not as simple as it was in the beginning when I started. So, with no further ado, I would love to introduce our guest host this month, Joshua Cruce. I've admired Josh on LinkedIn for quite some time. It took some confidence, but I finally messaged him and introduced myself. And I think we're becoming fast friends.
Oh yeah.
So, Josh, please introduce yourself for everyone.
No, absolutely. Well, I mean, first and foremost, Natalie, thank you so much for keeping this going.
Yeah.
What you just said is when you started your adjuster hour, how those onesies, just kind of a couple different folks, and I've I've done a lot of different things in my life, and entrepreneurship has been a big part of it. And there's this lesson that people say all the time, but it's hard to follow, which is perseverance. And when I started putting out, thought leadership or content on LinkedIn, I think it got my first few probably got 10, 15 impressions, and it was kind of crushing because I was like, I immediately, my ego immediately connected it to my entire self-worth, and I just said, you know what, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to keep it going, and
Yeah.
I'm going to push through. And now we're here because of that. And so
Yeah.
I appreciate the perseverance, and I've I followed the content for a while, and here we are as
Yeah.
one of the first guest speakers, or the first guest speaker
The first.
in the new format. So love it. Um,
Mhm.
for the audience, my name is Joshua Cruce. Professionally, I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of Vector Risk Solutions. It's an IA and managed repair firm focused in large loss and complex loss, mainly in commercial. And yeah, happy to give a little bit of background and all through that. But just as a brief introduction, I've been in this space on 12 years now, I think, something
Mhm.
like that. Have pretty interesting background how I got here. I know we'll probably cover that, but
Yeah, I would
space,
love to actually get you to tell people how you started in the industry because I think everyone has a unique story.
yep.
Some people, we don't just fall into it. Your story is a little unique. So, once you share that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love asking adjusters that question because,
Mhm.
truly how people have gotten in this industry is as unique as their own fingerprints. It's always
Mhm.
different. So it's always really fun because, this industry doesn't do a very good job at marketing itself. And that's unfortunate because, what we
Yeah.
do every day is truly service. And that's not a word that should be thrown around lightly. I don't
Mhm.
look at what we do any different than what a police officer does and a firefighter does. When people desperately need help, insurance adjusters, I believe that, if they stay true to the calling and the duty of what we are truly meant to do, we're here to bring light and hope to
Mhm.
someone's life when they didn't have any expectation that they would need it. And so, the space is a beautiful one, and it's not advertised or marketed, very very well, in my opinion. And so, how we find ourselves here is very unique. My background, I've been in service, for 20 years. Uh, you know, when when you're a little boy or a little girl on the playground, when someone asks you what you want to do when you grow up, no one ever says, a property insurance adjuster, but they say, other types of careers in service, police officer, firefighter,
Mhm.
even a superhero, maybe, right? I always wanted to be a soldier. That was my, me on the playground. I dress up in little fatigues, and I'd fashion a little rifle out of sticks. And
Really?
yeah, and my brother and I, we would do this funny thing. We would build a fort
Mhm.
for like the neighborhood kids in the woods, right? Build this little fort, and then we would defend it, right? And so they would
Mm.
hang out in the fort. We would defend them and protect them from, God knows, what was in the woods, right? And so it's something I always wanted to do. And both my brother and I were blessed enough to follow through on our childhood dreams. We both
Mhm.
served in the U.S. Army. I was a combat engineer, signed up when I was 18, and served 3 years in Iraq. And the 14th month of my last tour is a 15-month tour. I was as a combat engineer. For those that don't know, I mean, you either build stuff or blow stuff up. It's really one of the two. And so, I had the privilege of building a lot of things in Iraq, and schools and community centers. But I also had the pleasure of driving down the road and looking for IEDs for a living. And so, um, 14 months in, struck by a large IED. We lost, one of my brothers in that blast, and severely wounded the rest of us in the truck, including myself. Um, Life flight to Germany, to Walter Reed, where I was there for about a year, and from there I was retired. And I was still really young, but and I didn't really understand what service meant. Really, I didn't realize how important it was to me. I guess maybe is the real answer. But I saw how lost I was. I was
Mhm.
incredibly lost, and I would try this job and that job, and it's just nothing. The spark in me was dead. I hated it.
Wow.
And
Mhm.
so, in the light of that, I was just lost. I had it in my mind. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get an RV, and I'm just going to get lost. I'm just going to travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my thought was that, if I traveled and I just explored and took the pressure off, that I would kind of stumble into what I wanted to do. And as I was traveling, I learned of this organization. It's called Team Rubicon. And for those who don't know, an amazing organization, founded by for military, Jake Wood, special operator, founded this organization. And their primary duty, they're so big now, they're international now, but their primary duty is to provide humanitarian aid during lost sites. They call them missions. And so, in my RV, I'd receive a mission, and there would be a tornado loss in Alabama, or a large event or a flood loss somewhere. And we would pack up, and we would get there the next day, and serve that community. And after my first mission, I was hooked. I was absolutely
Well,
hooked.
where was your first mission?
Yeah, so my first mission, it was in this little town, in northern Mississippi, above right outside of Raleigh, Mississippi.
Oh,
And I got to
wow.
tell my fancy little webcam to stop tracking me.
Stop tracking.
Yeah, so it's funny. I have
Yeah.
this webcam that uses
Yeah, it moves with
AI,
you.
moves around and follows me, and
I couldn't have that. I
yeah,
talk too much
well,
with my hands.
yeah,
It would just
unfortunately,
be all
well,
over.
now that so I turned off the tracking. I guess there's a timer on it because now it's tracking me again. So I can't move my hands because if I do, it'll start zooming in. So now let's
Mhm.
have to monitor that. But so the second I got there, I loved it, and
Mhm.
so I spent months just event after event after event, mission after mission after mission, and serving people when God they were just I mean just everything's destroyed.
Yeah.
Being there for them, it really mattered. But while I was there, at mission after mission, obviously the first handful,
Mhm.
I was just, tired and I've never been known to be very aware. My wife can put, literally these plants in my office. I wouldn't even know that they were there for a while. So I'm not very aware. But what I used to do, while I was in these missions, I started seeing insurance adjusters, and I had no concept or clue who these people were. The only
Yeah.
thing I
Yeah.
saw, I'm in a yard, I'm cleaning it up. Here comes a white car. Out pops, a guy or gal in a polo, their little
Mhm.
computer, their clipboard, their camera, all the stuff. And while I'm cleaning up their yard, they're documenting the property. They're talking to the
Mhm.
homeowners right there and talking about their coverage. And back then, they would walk back to their car, spend about 10-15 minutes, and walk back out with a piece of paper. And that piece of paper, for a large loss could have, gosh, 100, 200, $300,000 on it.
Yeah.
And that piece of paper over, obviously an ACV payment, an advance payment of sorts, and they would leave. Now, what those adjusters didn't see is what happens when they left.
Mhm.
They don't see, we don't see that part. When we hang up
We
the phone
don't.
call or we leave the site, we don't see what happens
Mhm.
next. But when I was there on site, I was able to. And I was
Mhm.
able to see homeowners literally crumbling to their feet, crying in happiness.
Yeah.
That serious. How impactful that check in their hand
Mhm.
was because it represented hope. It wasn't numbers. It
No,
represented
exactly.
that, hey, this sucks, but it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
We're going to get through this.
No,
And
that is powerful to be able to see that. I think if more of us saw that, it would
and you
change.
know what? I'm sitting here in their front lawn picking up, all the stuff. And it clicked in my mind is that I recognize that I was
Mhm.
providing a lot of value,
Mhm.
but ultimately I was providing value and comfort for a couple days
Yeah.
and then on to the next.
Yeah.
These people, I didn't know really what they were. I didn't know adjusters. Like, what does that even mean? But these people, when they would show up and they would leave, they created long-term hope. They
Mhm.
and the resources there right there on site to be able to start rebuilding or just, get a hotel, just survive. And
Yeah.
it clicked for me is that, what? I love what I'm doing, but I want to be that person. I
Yeah.
want to be the one that makes a lasting, long-term, life-changing impact.
I
And
love that.
luckily, it turns out there's a contract that promises it. So it's, in those situations, I mean, it's a great place to be. It's, hey, the contract promises it. The only thing I gotta
Yeah.
do is come up and smile and do my
Oh, yeah, that's
and do it very well. And obviously, my background in engineering and
mhm.
in construction, it lent those skills and took a class and you know I learned day one that in
Mhm.
insurance adjusting, it's a business. And so I went out and I looked at the pages and I found, three firms that I thought were high quality, and I booked plane tickets and I went right to their front door, knocked on them. You know,
Wow.
you know,
Did you really did that,
oh yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Wow.
Why wouldn't I? I mean, the last thing I wanted to do is
Mhm.
be on Facebook, being, in the crowd, like at a
But
con.
this was also years ago too. This was
Yeah, yeah. I
this
mean,
was
yeah,
12, 13 years ago.
All right, for everyone for everyone on in the audience, don't show up to the office, please. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, let's. You're gonna have some people showing
Yeah,
up
yeah,
at
yeah,
yours.
yeah, knocking on the door. No, but
Mm,
I told him, I said, look, I don't,
mm,
I just give me 5 or 10. That's all I want. Yeah, just
mhm.
give me a chance and let me show you what I can do. And I think what was really important is my head was right. I wasn't
Yeah,
there, for money. I was there. I was there to serve.
that's
Um,
right.
and and I tell new adjusters all the time. I think we'll talk about this, in this
Mhm,
in this this time together. You know, if you do this job for the right reasons, the money will come, the
mhm.
success will come, the legacy will build all by itself.
Yep,
If you do it for the wrong reasons, then none of it'll come true. It's that simple. And so, luckily I started for the right reasons, and now I'm here today. And I spent a significant amount of time obviously in the field. I really do think that the reason that I was in this space really was a prime contributing factor to my advance in the space.
mhm,
Um, I just really, look, it's, and maybe I'm weird, but I show me any other job
mhm.
where you can make such a positive or negative impact in someone's life over and over and over again throughout the day. Every
Yeah.
call we make matters.
No,
Every
that is so
interaction we
true.
have will at least begin the journey
Mhm,
to potentially, financial recovery or not. And when we look at it from that lens, it starts to really shape why we do it and the effort that we put into every interaction we have. Because even if you're in a role where you have limited authority or those type of things, you can still position the outcome early to
absolutely.
make sure that that person has the right outcome. And so, because of that, stepped into large loss, in the commercial space very, very quickly, and spent a lot of time in the Lloyd's market, and
Mhm,
we're on very large losses, and I spent a lot of my time in California, especially, gosh, 2016, 17, 18, I think are the years. Unfortunately, wildfires were happening over and over and over again. And so I spent a lot of time out there and responding to those losses. It takes a toll. And
yeah,
a lot of people, it's something we can talk about today too. Service takes a toll. And what I started realizing is, I kept going back out over and over again. My family were saying,
mhm,
frankly, my kids were getting older, and they said, look, we don't need any of the, obviously, the funds or what have you. We're in a position where you don't need to do this every time.
mhm.
And
Yeah,
I said, look, if I don't, somebody else will, and I don't know if
mm,
that somebody else will do this right. And
yeah,
look, when the tree's on a fence, risk it.
mhm,
I hate to say it that way, but that's a great place to start. But when your house is burned completely to the ground, you
mhm.
can't get that wrong, because
No,
if you get that wrong at the beginning, those people will suffer for
yeah,
years and years, fighting for something they should never had to fight for to begin with. And that's a travesty in a lot of cases. And I don't blame, I won't even talk about, necessarily blame, but I definitely would say that, who's there matters, and
mhm,
who is responding is really important. And so, uh,
exactly.
you
And I
know,
think we're gonna talk about that too, about
yeah,
how what we should be doing when we respond.
yeah,
We'll
yeah.
kinda get into that too.
Well, so and I'll wrap up. So, I tell stories, and sometimes
No,
the
I'm
stories
enjoying.
go long, but you know, I finally got to a place where I agreed that there's a way that I can make a bigger difference, and as
Yeah,
a part of that was partnering with firms as a strategist. I was a bit of a strategy background, and really focused on how firms can specialize and niche themselves and bring the best value and align their resource teams, their
Mhm.
independent adjusters with that value. And those that have done this are extremely successful organizations that make a very meaningful impact. And so, as I advance myself into the seats that I exist in today, it's really built on, expanding the way that I serve and positioning
Mhm.
our organizations to focus very strictly on what they do great, partner
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
adjusters who specialize in what they do great, and then align that and make sure that they're taken care of, they're paid well, they're paid fast, and that they're encouraged and given all the resources and tools needed to make an impact in that individual's life.
Mhm.
That's the funny thing is you can serve the client, you can serve a carrier,
Of course, yeah.
and potentially leave out service to the policyholder in some cases.
Mhm.
But if you serve the policyholder correctly, you automatically serve the carrier. So if you focus it from the lens of first and foremost, I need to provide an experience for the policyholder, you are automatically providing the best service for your clients. And so, and vice versa, sometimes that's not the case. And so,
No.
but anyway,
Yeah, no,
that was me in a
I love
nutshell,
that.
and I carried it on for about 15 minutes. So I
No.
hope no one fell asleep, right?
No, no, that's great. I love where you're touching on so many of our good questions.
Yeah.
And let's jump into some of the questions that were submitted by
All right, let's do it.
the adjusters, which I love. So this is kind of basic to more advanced
Yeah, yeah.
questions. And from Nick C, what do you recommend to a brand new adjuster to break into the industry?
Mm,
Brand new, right out the gate.
brand
Got their
new,
adjuster's
fresh.
license, Josh. They're
Yeah.
ready.
Yep. So, so let's talk about that, right? So there's,
Mhm.
there's in any advice, if you're getting advice from somebody, it should always include uh, the cautions, and
Yeah,
then it should then also include, a little bit of silver lining, the path. And
please.
so when I try to give advice, I try to give both of those. And things have changed in our industry. Let's talk about when I was a new adjuster. When I was a new adjuster, first and foremost, there was simply not a lot of technology, right? So,
No.
I mean, look, to be fair, I've never had to paste Polaroids onto
No, I've
onto
heard the
cardboard and
stories
fold
though.
it up
Mhm.
any of that. But when I entered the space, there was a much higher need for independent adjusters in general, just because the claim volume has steadily increased, actually. But simply put, you had to measure every little thing. You're pulling tape on
Yeah,
every roof. You're doing, you're on site for
yep,
3 hours. And so it was a lot easier for adjusters to step in and there be a space. Okay.
yeah.
The landscape is a little bit more competitive now. And so then, again, you didn't really need to have a name. You didn't need to have a brand. You didn't need to have a specialization. You just needed
Be an adjuster.
be an adjuster, and be able to get to the scene and get on the roster
Mhm.
and put in a couple emails, build a couple relationships, and off you go. As it's we're evolving, and my recommendation to an independent insurance adjuster
Mhm.
is you operate a company, period. And business 101, there's a couple tenets. First and foremost, your brand matters. Marketing yourself and your organization, your service lines matter.
Absolutely.
No one has ever been successful at opening, a small store and trying to sell literally everything, right? You can't
Mhm.
be Walmart in a small, in the size of a convenience store, right? You're one person, you're two people, and so I think it's really important now to
Mhm.
focus on the fact that you operate a business. And with a business, you need to focus on your brand, you need to focus
Mhm.
on your marketing, and you need to be able to clearly articulate your value proposition quick. 30 seconds or less. Quickly, what do you do? Why does that matter? And how is it competitive? And that's an internal practice, because at the same time, if you can sit down and look, it doesn't need to be formal. It can be written on a piece of paper. Where do you adjust? What property do you would say? Let's call it a property, adjuster. They've niched down, right? When you build out your business plan, where are you going to start? Are you going to do daily? Are you going to be a cat adjuster? Are you going to focus on, in the Southeast or the mid, where are the areas of your specialty? And when you identify this, it allows you to start making really good decisions about the IA firms you partner with.
Mm-hmm.
So many adjusters, I think, really struggle when they come into our space because, look, there's a theory and then there's practicality, right? At the end of the day, I need a job. And so, quickly we find ourselves working for any firm that'll hire us. And maybe at the very beginning that makes sense, but you need to very quickly, and I would say about as close to the beginning as possible,
Mm-hmm.
understand what you do really well, have a lot of self-actualization, understand what you're about and what you do, and then interview your clients as to if they can provide that specific line of business for you, right? So if you've spent a lot of time on interior water damage, well, guess what? You probably want to stay in the Northeast, right? Those winter storms will carry on forever. Those
Or
might
mold in
just keep
Louisiana.
on going. Oh, yeah, right. And so, and so you can articulate your value. And so when you walk to a
Mm-hmm.
firm, if I'm meeting you, Nat, and you're a dispatcher, you're in leadership with the firm, I can say, look, my name is Joshua Cruce. I am IIC. I'm a property adjuster. I'm IICRC, WTR, ASD, advanced structural drawing. My bread and butter is interior water damage. That's what I do day in and day out. I'm really good at it. I can work with mitigation teams. I know them very well. I know what needs to be done. I have some wall candy, some certifications that that show that I'm not kidding. And so when something like that comes through your office, send it to me. Just send me two, and I'll show you what I can do. And then from there, you'll send me everyone that you possibly have. And so when you look at an IA, especially new, you have to recognize that you are opening a business,
Mm-hmm.
and that when you open any business, the first and foremost thing that you need to be able to do is market and market and market. That means understanding your target audience.
Well, what is the
Understanding,
best way of marketing, of doing
yeah.
that?
So, if you look at any other business, if you cut grass, right? Your market is not every home in the United States, right? That's an impossible
That
market.
would be
So,
impossible. Yeah, that would be insane.
it's an impossible market. Yeah, they all have grass, but it doesn't mean that they're your client, or
That you're your client.
they're in your
Yeah,
market.
I love that.
So when you're starting, this camera.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're starting in the space, research and then identify your target market very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
If you are primarily going to be a cat adjuster, and primarily you want to focus on the hurricane prone areas in the Southeast, for example,
Mm-hmm.
then that means you need to do two things. First and foremost, you need to research firms, go to their website, look at what they do. I'm going to be frank, if they're too broad, be careful, right? If they do everything, then they're
They do everything under the sun.
trying to mow everyone's grass too, right? And so perhaps
Mm-hmm.
it might be a misalignment, but you know, don't just step into a Facebook group and lurk. And I say that with respect. So many people are so scared to stand up and market themselves. There's literally, when you go to these, I won't say all the pages, but you go to, the pages,
Oh
and
yeah.
look, when you stand up, you're standing up in front of all of your competition, and you're saying, "This is who I am." And then
Mm-hmm.
all your, the audience in that room is primarily your competition. Don't spend the energy. So,
Those
but
groups
your
are
clients
cancer. Yeah.
are IA firms. Sometimes they're there. So, obviously make sure that you're not one of the
Mhm.
hecklers, because, IA firms obviously look at
Oh
that.
yeah. I
But,
used to watch, and someone heckled me and they got blacklisted and they asked me for work.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
had the audacity after they heckled me on Facebook, and yeah, I said nope, don't have an opportunity for you.
No, so so I will,
Mhm.
those are a lot of generalities. I know if we go on, it'll be a long go, but I'll break it
Yeah.
down to a short list. Get on LinkedIn.
Yes.
First and foremost, get on
Absolutely.
LinkedIn. Stay off Facebook, because the people that are on Facebook, you have dispatchers, you have some frontline managers, whoever.
Mhm.
On LinkedIn, I don't know, 11,000 followers. I don't know how many followers I have, but a good number. And when I put out a piece of content, I can see analytically that 20% of people that view my content are claims managers, 39%
Mhm.
are going to be vice president of claims. I can see the analytics, and I know that my target market is right there.
Yep.
Don't be scared to reach out and say hello, connect,
Mhm.
interact, make comments, add professional opinions,
Absolutely.
because there's so many different, so many opportunities have been presented to me simply from a quick a glance at a Facebook or at a LinkedIn page, right?
Yeah.
Or a comment or a message. I'm pretty sure that's how, the fact that I'm
That's how
here
we
today,
connected.
that
Yep.
how I'm here today is because LinkedIn is a great platform, and it connects professionals. And we had shared interests and values, and we sparked a conversation, and about our industry. And now here I am, on our show, and and have a great friend in you, Nat.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why I'm here. So first and foremost, get off Facebook, get on LinkedIn.
Get off Facebook.
Second, research. Identify 10 IA firms that you would like to work with, and I mean research. Go into their page,
Mhm.
connect with them on LinkedIn. Connect with a claims manager at an IA firm. Reach out to them and say, would you be willing to give me 5 minutes? I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to be on your roster. I just want to ask you a couple questions on how it is to
I
work
love that.
at your
Yeah.
organization, right?
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
once you narrow it down to 10 firms, now you have your target market. When you
Mhm.
try to market yourself to the 2,374 IA firms that currently exist in the United States, you're getting nowhere. You're going far too broad, and you're not going forward. But when you narrow it down to 10 organizations, and you're on LinkedIn, you're connecting with their leadership, you're
Building
putting
that
out content,
relationship.
you're engaging with their content,
Mhm.
you are separating yourself from the masses of people that just spend their time on Facebook and don't really get anywhere.
No. No. And the days of just putting your name on the roster are dead. They're over.
Of
It's
course.
done.
Yep.
It's
100%.
done.
No question.
You
This
you
is we live in a human person industry,
exactly.
a person industry. We serve people, and we connect with people, and people want to work with people that they like, and that they get a
They
good
make an
stamp.
effort.
Yeah.
They make an effort showing up at these networking events, the conferences,
Yeah.
joining local associations. You
Absolutely.
know, I remember when I first started, my mom, she told me, you need to network.
Hmm.
And I told her this was back in 2012.
Yeah.
I told her, no, mom, I don't need to network. I have a job. I just got my first job. I don't
Yeah.
need to network.
I'm good.
And
Turn
and,
LinkedIn
and I
off.
was like, oh, I got my job. I don't need to network. And she said, I promise you,
Mhm.
you will not regret networking. You
Yeah.
will not regret it. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to take my little self to every single event that I can possibly go to, and I'm just going to try.
Yeah.
And the first couple events, Josh, I don't think I made eye contact with anyone because I was young, I was
Yep.
nervous.
Yep.
And little by little, I started building my confidence. I started meeting, there's people at these networking events that are people connectors.
Yeah.
That is their whole persona.
Yeah.
Find that people connector. Like mine is, I don't know if he's watching, Matt Edwards. He's my
Yeah.
people connector. He knows everyone.
Of course.
And so when you find that person or a person that is in the industry that appears like they've been in it for a while, maybe they look a little older, maybe they're around a bunch of other people, they seem to know people,
Sure.
gravitate, make
Yeah.
an effort to get to know them and build that rapport. You never Everyone loves talking about themselves and they love mentoring other people.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's how you need to get in to separate yourself from the masses,
Yeah.
because unfortunately there's been a mass influx of adjusters that have come in because of financial gain.
Yeah.
And
100%.
we see this all the time.
Yeah.
And that is not what adjusting is. I don't want an estimator to come out and give me a quick estimate and then run, and I don't hear from them again. Why has that, what has led to that change, Josh, where we're getting these estimators, we're getting just
Yeah.
these quick adjustments?
Yeah. So, it's a complex question to unpack. And
It's very
so I'll
complex.
probably hit on some things, and so, we'll, could probably have an entire session just
Mhm.
on that specific piece. But look, it boils down to value. And so in my role and the roles that I've had as a head of strategy for organizations for the last handful of years, and as a consultant, management consultant in the space, um, I speak with a ton of carrier leaders, typically directors and vice presidents, chief claims officers, etc. It's a value question.
Mhm.
Now, so I kind of make the joke is like, when we see fees that are reduced, simply put, there's a lack of perceived value from a carrier perspective, and
Mhm.
this reflects, and this isn't subjective. A lot of the conversations that I have with leaders from the carriers now, like say, last week, it boils down to a very simple question: what am I getting for the fee
Mhm.
that I'm paying? Okay, that's current state.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack as to how we got to our current state. Um, Simply put, in our current state, there's a lot of technology. There are, organizations that, provide service, that are, inspection onlys, and I don't have to mention any organizations in the chat, but, or in the meeting, but there are organizations that provide
Mhm.
niche services, right? Inspect only, what have you. Well, when you see this, if you are going to enter this space as an insurance adjuster, and you're doing it because you heard your friend say how much money they got and you saw someone in a nice truck or some version of that, and you're there for the
Mhm.
money, your interest is to access the lowest hanging fruit, work the
Mhm.
easiest claims at the highest volume for the highest revenue generation. Okay, that's a straightforward
Yeah.
formula. If I'm here to make as much money as I can as fast as possible, I'm going to want to do tree on fences day in, day out, as many as I possibly can. Well, the problem is, when you have these, low severity, high volume claims, why would a carrier? And this is an honest question, and I'm sure it could spark controversy, but I think it's a straightforward, it's a real question: is why would you?
Mhm.
So why would you, if you were a carrier, why would you pay $850 to an IA who is showing up on site? And here's the problem: is there's also a service component to this.
Yes.
Unfortunately, because so many folks, we have so many hurricanes, we've had an increase in people in the space. So many folks are coming in. I say, I'm your insurance adjuster. Hi, Net. My name is Josh. I'm your insurance adjuster. Do not follow me outside. I'm going to spend about 30%, 30 minutes on your property. I'm going to look at the outside. I'm going to look at the roof. I'm going to come in. I'm going to shine a flashlight a little bit. I'm going to tell you I cannot do anything. I have no authority. You have to talk to somebody else, not me. My entire job here is to take
It's,
photos, document this, and I'll
they're
be here
saying
for 30
that.
minutes. So you need to hurry up and get all your questions, and I won't be able to answer them because I have no authority, and that's it.
Yeah.
If
That's a
that is
problem.
if that is the experience of a homeowner, then why wouldn't a carrier pay $400 for somebody to come out and say, hi, I'm an inspector, I'm an inspect only person, I'm going to come out and I'm going to provide, gather
Mhm.
some documentation on site, and I'm going to provide to your insurance company. It's the exact same
It's
service.
the exact, yep, that's right.
And
It's
so
the
it's
same
it's, it's
thing.
it's a perceived value question. So you know now that's in our current state. Now let's go back a little bit. Let's go back a
Mhm.
little bit. Say 2012.
Mhm. Good year.
Good year.
Great year.
There was a time where, that was an interesting time because, there were so
Mhm.
many adjusters in the space that were tenured, extremely tenured professionals.
Yep.
I mean, truly just, back from the days where they were sticking Polaroids on cardboard and
That's who I worked with.
running film, and they weren't using
Yep.
Exactament. They were, I mean, they were
I was
using.
helping them with Xactimate.
Yeah, yeah, they
Yeah.
were, they had pricing books, and they had, and they
Yep.
sorted it out, and um, you know, as the time started to evolve, any industry is going to go through cycles
Yep.
where we have to look at the simple fact that as an independent, so I'm only speaking about independent insurance adjusting. There,
Yes.
we talk staff
Yes.
too, but just for independent, you are very far away from a profit center. Yeah, an independent adjuster is the furthest away from a carrier's profit center.
Mm-hmm.
Profit centers are done on brokerage and product.
Mm-hmm.
Underwriting is close, actuarial is close, staff claims close, but turning into an expense, and then third-party vendors are the furthest away from an organization's profit center.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, like, let's take insurance away, okay? Let's talk about personal finance, okay? When things get hard, what's the first thing that goes? When the bills start getting tight,
Yeah.
the economy, the inflation's going up, what's the first thing that you get rid of?
All those extra expenses.
Little fringe things, the things that
Mm-hmm.
are furthest away that
I
do
canceled
bring
my Netflix.
value.
Go, okay, time to cancel Netflix.
Right, right, yeah, that Netflix is a subscription, and well, unfortunately, probably the
It's like, I don't know, budget's
you
getting close. Let me cut the Netflix for the month.
yeah,
Yeah, it's the same
it's the
concept.
fringe expenses, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's not personal, but at the end of the day, an independent insurance adjuster and third-party service providers are furthest away from the profit centers, and so because of that, when things do get tight,
Mm-hmm.
then those expenses, they have to be evaluated at the very minimum, right? At the very minimum, as people that are trying to pay their bills just like anyone else, when things are getting a little tight, I have to evaluate my spending, and
Yep.
I have to determine if the value that this expense gives me is enough. And so that started happening 2012, 13, 14. We started getting a lot more cat. Some
Mm-hmm.
interesting things were happening in the reinsurance market. Okay, so that insurance adjusters, when you independents that just come in, they only see their little silo, their little tiny world.
Yep.
The reality is they are a small cellular world in a very large universe. And so there are a lot of things at play. Catastrophes started rising, the cost of construction started going up, the reinsurance market was starting to harden a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so for
Especially in
for
Louisiana.
those that don't know, I mean, this, you never want to assume that the audience kind of knows what I'm talking about. Reinsurance is essentially insurance for retail carriers,
Mm-hmm.
and so they protect their exposure by getting another insurance company to insure their own losses. So that starts becoming an expense. And then at the same time, you started thinking about, obviously beforehand, the recession, inflation. There's a lot of market
Mm-hmm.
conditions that started impacting. So overall, there were a lot of pressures on the industry, external pressures, where carriers had to evaluate their expenses and determine value. What that started to do initially were that, well, if I'm Netflix, Natalie, you call Netflix. Hey, Netflix, things are tight, and
What's your take?
I need to cut service.
Yep.
Was Netflix going to say, "Oh, sure, absolutely, that sounds great"? No, Netflix is going to say, "Oh, well, I'll tell you what.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're paying $10 a month.
Yeah, what
Why
if I
don't
can
I
offer
charge
you?
you $8 a month?
Mm-hmm.
And you keep my service."
Yeah,
That's a fair thing, right?
it's a win-win.
That's a survival thing. So that's when we started to see the
Mm-hmm.
vendor market start making those concessions.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, we did start getting, obviously technology and all these things that started to come into space. So overall, the big thing is, things started getting tight. The margins started getting narrower, and at the end of the day, every insurance company, I mean, obviously, we can get, semantics,
Yeah.
mutuals and what have you, are membership owned, but ultimately, every organization's job is to have, higher revenue than their costs. And so when that starts to become threatened, you have to make good decisions. So that's why we're ultimately here today.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, what do we do about it?
What? Yeah.
right?
What do we do about it? So as you're talking, I'm thinking all I can think about is Laura, Delta, Zeta, and
Yeah,
then Ida
yeah,
over and over in my head. And that is when the shift truly happened in my neck of the woods
mhm,
was after Ida. The claims just dried up. And it was really, really scary because and we know there are trends, around we see there's some highs and lows in adjusting. I'm a daily adjuster.
mhm,
So I was a little bit more stable than being a cat adjuster, which is something people need to consider if they're getting started in the industry is what do I want out of this? Do I want to work a couple months of the year or do I want a more consistent,
mhm,
you know, basis? And you can do that as an independent, but it takes rapport building.
yeah,
You need to build that up. So as a daily adjuster, working cats was great for me. It's my extra money, it's my extra spending money.
yeah,
And after Ida, it dried up, but it dried up because exactly what you're saying is that they spent so much money on expenses because they had to, they needed
mhm,
people. And there's that influx of adjusters that just flooded the market.
mhm.
And then get what happens when they take it away?
And
What
that's
happens,
well, and that's the tough part, right? So, it's a, kind of an unfortunate cycle.
Mhm.
You have a need for new adjusters, right? You have an immediate demand. And so, I was there for a lot, for all those losses and beforehand. I remember in Irma where, you'd be sitting at a
Mhm.
McDonald's and someone will walk in and say, I'll give everyone $1,000 right now if you come with me.
Mhm.
Those are real things that happened.
Yes.
You needed people. Now the problem is they don't know what they're doing. And
They
so
don't
when
know what
they
they're doing. I have
they
no
step
idea.
in, they are the only point of contact. They're it.
Mhm.
Their
They're it.
photos matter. Their assessment matters. And if they don't know how to properly, document and
Mhm.
support a file, then you started having such a violent
Yes.
increase in litigation and dispute. And so that drove up indemnity, that drove up litigation costs, that drove up counsel costs, that drove up so many of those indemnity related costs
Yep.
that of course, it then circles back to say, my God, we really have to cancel Netflix now because our mortgage just went up by 100%.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, it's a dangerous cycle.
It is. No, I'm glad that we touched on that topic. And I don't know if you guys saw, there's a squirrel that
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's
it's not
fun.
a rat, it's a squirrel. They're all over the place. I have a big oak tree, and they love it. So here's a good question
And
from
this isn't a tall boy, it's liquid death as well. So
so
let's
hey,
go ahead and get all the
6 o'clock.
disclaimers all the way. That's not a rat, and this isn't a malt beverage. So we're on the up and up here.
No, we're on the up and up. Yes. But I just got water in my cup too.
There
So,
you go.
Lakeisha G,
Mhm.
she asks, did you see an increase in career opportunities once you acquired your designations? Which I think is a
Yeah,
wonderful question.
it is. So yeah, so first and foremost, there's multiple components to designations.
Mhm.
First, it's education. You get more opportunities the more things you know. And the institutes, CPCU, all these,
Mhm.
meaningful designations, you know, when you are an adjuster and you live in this little silo and you actually invest in your education in insurance, not claims, but in actual
Mhm.
insurance, and understand the actual ecosystem that you are in, you're able to navigate it better. Okay.
Yep.
So like getting into management, it's not just the fact that you have some alphabets after, alphabet soup after your name. And so you should be management. It's that you understand your ecosystem so you
Mhm.
can then better articulate your value within the ecosystem.
I
And
love that.
so like AIC is, the associates in claims, associates in general insurance, CPCU. I think what 4% of all insurance professionals hold a CPCU designation. And
It's a great one to have.
I see Susie, if she's still on. I see, there's
Yep.
Susie, and yeah, she's she's got mostly the same alphabet I do. But so first and foremost, it's education. Okay. With that education, understanding the larger market and understanding the ecosystem that you're in allows you to navigate that ecosystem better. That's one. For two, Nat, have you ever walked into a room say at a conference, and say you're wearing, I don't know, a t-shirt, okay, and you walk into the room and everyone's wearing, wearing a dress shirt. Do you feel
Yikes.
a little out of place, maybe?
I'm mortified. I'm probably mortified.
Yeah.
Unless I have a pink blazer over it, I'm good.
Hey, Susie, there you are. Yeah. So y- you have to recognize, right? So when I started getting designations, first and foremost, it was just education. I didn't even
Mhm.
post. I didn't even put it there really. It was just to help me understand the ecosystem that I was in. But
Yeah.
then what happens is, I started learning. Well, that when I was on LinkedIn, I'm making these connections. Well, that vice president of claims as CPC. What is it? Let me start
Mhm.
understanding. I started recognizing that designations, just like a degree, right? Why did we go
Mhm.
to college?
Yeah.
You get a degree, and an employer looks at a degree primarily that you are willing to take a moment in your life to invest in a greater
Mhm.
bit of knowledge, and that you did so over an extended period of time. That you are actually investing in yourself over an extended period of time. That's the only reason that someone looks at a degree, in a job application. And see, designations are helpful for that. It
Mhm.
showcases the fact that you are willing, able, and have invested in your future in a meaningful way, and especially in a way that took a period of time. A CPCU,
Mhm.
I think on average takes 4 years to complete.
Wow.
I think on average, they're pretty smart. They open their testing windows in really funny ways. There's a way to hack that. That's a whole different conversation. I think I got
We'll
my
have to have that because
CPCU.
I'm gonna try to do. I'm going for it.
I got my CPCU, I think, in 6 or 8 months, and it's all about timing. It's about how you study, what you study,
Okay.
and how you
Well,
align
we need
it
to
with the
talk.
testing
Yeah.
windows. Yeah, but anyway, on average, it takes, I think, 4 years, 3 or 4 years for an average professional to obtain that designation. So it helps you be in those rooms.
Mhm.
It makes sure that you're wearing, the same outfit, if you will, as the people in the room. And so, and I think people are comfortable with, people they recognize, right? And so,
Mhm.
having the CPCU, being a part of, the CPCU society is a great networking, society. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that are interested in insurance, not just claims or underwriting or
There's local
actuarial,
chapters
just
for
insurance. And
CPCU.
it is helpful. So to answer
Mhm.
the question in a long breathing way is yes. As my designations, accrued, so did opportunities.
Mhm.
However, I will caution, getting a designation by itself is mildly irrelevant. It may, if
Mhm.
I see somebody with an AIC or an AINS, okay,
Mhm.
it's I see you, right? But then you also have to walk the walk. And that's why, like, when you are studying for these designations, don't flip through the pages. Drink it in. If you're,
Yep.
I see people like, I'm just trying to blow through it. Well, I took time, but I took 4 hours a night, and I spent time actually living and breathing the material. Because when you truly understand the value that you are in this industry, you understand the entire ecosystem, you can navigate your career much better. Instead of saying, well, there's no good fee schedules out there. Well, we can actually articulate why. The reinsurance market is extremely hard. They're not willing to take risk in commercial residential property. They've been taking a beating over 4 or 5 years, especially in their catastrophe bonds and their catastrophe, their reinsurance contracts. They're extremely expensive. There's been a retraction in overall policy premium for a lot of carriers. They've been, mildly financial unstable just due to the constant increase of total expense, and the trickle down effect says that we're the last one on the list. That's the real answer. Knowing and having the understanding with the designation,
Mhm.
but then also being very interested in the insurance space as a whole, and having holistic conversations with other people, all of that collectively has
Mhm.
really been the meaningful impact in my career progression.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, and I guess I mean it helps. It helps your process as an adjuster knowing insurance, knowing how it actually works. One of the biggest pieces of advice I give to anyone, whether it's willing or not, is you help people. When you're an adjuster, you help people,
Yeah,
and their responsibility. Well, how do you help people? How
yeah,
how do you help people? and you help people by knowing insurance and knowing their policy and applying it to the claim
Yeah.
in the best of your ability.
Yeah.
That is how you help people. And you can't do that if you do not understand how insurance works, how the policy reads,
Yeah.
how to actually work a claim.
Mhm.
You're doing no one any yourself nor yourself any justice
Yeah.
by not understanding that. And I think we can all go get our license. We can all go take that exam and get our license. We all and we all have. And then now what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah.
So anyone can do that, but actually being an adjuster, it takes more. It takes more than just the education. You need to have that stamina. Oh, there goes the squirrel. It fell down. You need to have that resilience,
Yeah.
that wanting to do good.
Mhm.
Just coming in and going, okay, well, here we are. I'm going to contact the firms. I'm going to get on their roster,
Mhm.
and then I sit and wait, and
Yeah.
then I get mad when I don't have a call back.
Yeah.
You can't get mad. What did you actually do?
100%. And
You know?
it's really easy to blame, in this industry, and I don't care if you're a staff adjuster, if where you could be the vice president of claims, chief claims officer, perhaps there's a couple, watching this, you know, the reason that you exist is to be accountable.
Yeah.
Accountability is a superpower in claims.
It
When I
is.
start hearing that's not my problem, I remember it was, oh gosh, it was, I forgot, but
It
it might have
hurts
been,
my
yeah,
chest.
sorry, no, it might have been, I don't know which
Oh my
hurricane,
gosh.
I think it was like perhaps Ian or something like that, you know, I'm sitting here eating and I see a pack of adjusters behind me, and, I know that they're adjusters 'cause I'm hearing what they're talking about.
Oh yeah, you know an adjuster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially a new one, they kinda, their head kinda, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah.
No, but,
No, no, I know, but they
yeah.
do, and we've all done. Hey, we've all been there. It's all in good fun.
Yeah,
So.
so while I'm listening to him talk, and I kept hearing someone say, it's like, look, yeah, I don't really know the issues here. He's like, I'm just going to throw something together and let them deal with it. That's the reason
Mhm.
that VPs of claims, chief claims officers say, well, what am I paying for?
What am I paying for? That's right. Oh.
We have to recognize, we have to be accountable. The real fact is because I'm sure there'll be people watching this, folks are watching this, newer adjusters, like, well, I have no authority. No one will give me the authority. No one will, I have these strict guidelines. I have these pressures. Well, you also need to have accountability.
Mhm.
If you go on site and you perform a 30-minute inspection with 40 blurry photos,
My worst nightmare.
a template report that has clearly
Mhm.
been rinsed, washed, and repeated a million times, and you throw that up because you're trying to make as much money as possible, go through as many claims as
Mhm.
possible, there are consequences of that behavior at scale.
Yeah.
You may not have the authority to write a check right then and there, but you are the only one that's going to be looking at that site.
Yeah.
And you can point to the carrier and say, well, they're not paying. Well, the reality is, well, the carriers have people to answer to them. They
Mhm.
have reinsurers for for cat reinsurance that can audit
Yeah.
every carrier, every claim. And
Mm.
if you have 40 blurry photos and a report and a poorly written estimate because you don't know how to write proper estimates, or you don't know the proper means and methods of construction, and or you are
Mhm.
unwilling to spend the time to
Yeah.
properly articulate
That's it right
why
there.
your position is your position in a meaningful way,
Mhm.
well, the carriers cannot risk being audited and showing that they spent $100,000 off 40 blurry photos and a poor report,
Mhm.
right? And
No,
then
that's exactly right.
the
Absolutely.
reinsurance market is unwilling to reinsure them. So that's why guidelines exist, is to help
Mhm.
ensure that when they are being audited and being reviewed for reinsurance, that they are being a fiduciary to
Mhm.
functionally the entire reinsurance tower's money.
Yeah.
And so it's when you have that accountability, you recognize that I need to spend more time. I need to take more photos. I need to take it from inside the window and outside the window. I need to, showcase where the wind, where the direction of the
Do
head.
your job.
I need to, annotate the estimate so that we can see it all consistently and we can
Yeah.
tell a story.
Provide that value.
And what ends up happening is the storytellers will be here forever.
Mm-hmm.
I call them the difference between reading a book and sending a text. You know, if you tell a story,
Mm-hmm.
you have nothing to worry about. And the people that tell stories in this industry, they're not even asking the question of why is there no work?
Yep.
Because the storytellers who are able to properly investigate and articulate the findings of a loss in a meaningful way and articulate their position so that someone else who wasn't there can understand it and approve it,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be here. Because at the end of the day, every carrier, and this is a broad statement, and generalized statement, but all the carriers that I've ever worked with, at the very core, they want to pay the claim. They want
Yeah.
to pay what they owe. They want to pay it
They
fast.
really
They,
do.
they,
They
they
really
want to take care of it. They want to get it done.
do.
They want to take care of their homeowner, their business owner. They want that premium to continue year after year
Mm-hmm.
for 20 years. They want to get it done, get it off their books and settle it and be done. That is their true desire. But they are also fiduciaries. They must go off of what they have. And so if you're unwilling to provide them what they need to do what they want to do, which is pay the fair claim and be done, then they are going to ask you, how are you valuable to me? Because the
Yep.
only thing that you've done is you've opened disputes. We've gone into appraisal, we've gone into mediation, we've gone to trial, and we've had to do massive pre-trial settlement, all because of 40 blurry photos that were done in 30 minutes. And if you don't think that
Yeah.
that doesn't come up at the mediation table, sir, how long were you on site?
Ugh, the dreaded
Right?
question.
Well, so how, I mean, you know what I'm saying? So we can go
Mhm.
on about that, but
No.
it really
Mhm.
is a matter of articulating value in a meaningful way.
But what I'm hearing, Josh, is that when we first, and let's tie this back in to how property adjusting has changed and the trends that we're seeing in the last decade, is that when we first started, for me, I was trained. I was actually trained for 6 months before I was sent on my own as an independent adjuster. That is not, first of all, that doesn't happen for independents. I've never met anyone that has happened to as of recent.
Mhm.
You have to find someone, hey, can I do ride-alongs with you? Can I? And like you said, there were those older adjusters that have been in the industry for so long that were willing. When my first phone call to someone, it was my friend Karen, my coworker Karen, who I was working with at the time. Her brother, it was Heath. He was an insurance adjuster, and I mentioned to her that I wanted to be an adjuster, and I was
Mhm.
studying, and like that was my dream, right?
Yeah.
And she said, "Talk to my brother." And I'll never forget this, and I've held his words to this day, is that he said, "Natalie, I will answer any question you have, and I will teach you, I will show you everything you need to know, but you have to promise me you're going to do the same to the next person that asks you, and the next person, and the next person." And that's what I've took that so much to heart, that I have this adjuster hour where
Absolutely.
I will forever remember that. And that's what's missing, is everyone sees each other. Okay, well, we're competition. You're not riding along. Not everybody,
Yeah,
because we have
sure.
some
Yeah.
really good folks
Mhm.
that it is their competition. They're like, well, why would I take away money off my table
Mhm.
to feed you?
Yeah.
And the lack of that training, that fundamental training,
Mhm.
is what's leading to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Those terrible inspections, the value is going down. Why am I paying you that?
Yeah.
So in order to change this trend that we all know, we're all seeing it,
Yeah.
the quick grabs, is to say, you know what, this is my assignment, I'm going to knock it out the park,
Yeah.
I'm going to do my job, you're going to have no questions for me when you
Mhm.
get my report, when you get my photos, it's like you were there.
Mhm.
And you consistently do that every single time, because what's the saying, you're only as good as your last claim.
Yeah. Yeah, so
That's exhausting, right?
every every bit of advice should come with,
Mhm.
with a bit of the real.
Yeah.
Um, Independent insurance adjusting, you are your own business. You must take accountability for your own actions.
Mhm.
When I started, I had a construction background. I had mild, I say, a military engineering background. So I want to be very clear. I was not an engineer. I was in the U.S. Army. It's a different it's a different thing. But as some engineering and a construction background, and I didn't rely on that. I recognized really
Mhm.
early that I am operating a business. And so 2020 is so the first 2 years, I allocated specifically in an entirely different account, 20% gross revenue into my training account. And for the first 2 years, 20%, and I stayed pretty busy and,
Mhm.
we won't talk numbers, but it was a significant amount, as it relates to someone that was training.
Yeah.
20% was purely for my training, and I attended, so many IICRCs. I
Mhm.
actually got my general contractor's license, a limited license, and the only reason I did that is because I simply wanted the 27 books to study. And I was like, well, I already studied the mess out of all this, and so I might as well take the test and just
Yeah.
add that. Invested in the institutes for an AIC and AINS and CPCU
Yeah.
over my tenure. I within the first year, level 3 Exactiment certified. I went, I identified Exactiment certified trainers, and I spent, at the time, I forgot what it was, but it was, with travel and everything, I'm sure it was like $3,000. Um, I recognized
Oh,
I
my
recognized
bad.
that in order for me to provide a valuable service offering as a company, I must invest in my own training.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it's also a mindset. This is my career. This is, I will be old and gray and in this industry serving policyholders in a variety of different ways. That's a decision I've made a long
Yeah.
time ago. Um, if you're in this for something quick and you have a I'm functionally an employee mindset, you're not going to make it long. It's literally a matter of time. Um, if you think that it is another company's responsibility to train your company as an independent organization, you're also mistaken. Now,
Mhm.
IA firms are willing to train you to the point to where you'll have enough skill, hopefully,
Mhm.
to not have them lose their client. That's the standard.
Yeah.
That is
That
the
yeah.
extent as
Absolutely.
to which they will train you so that they, to the point to where they mitigate the risk of you completely making them lose a multi-million-dollar account. That's the extent of it. So if you utilize that as your baseline, you're not getting very far. So if the question is, how do I make it in this space? Your
Mhm.
business, and this is for an IA, right? You're a business,
Mhm.
behave like one, finance yourself like one, structure yourself as one. From the gate, I had a corporation. From the gate, I had CPAs. I
Mhm.
met with, money managers. When, back in the day, and still true today to some extent. I mean, events can easily bring, north of a quarter to 300, some cases $400,000. That's a lot of money. You don't go out and buy a big truck. You invest,
No. Please
you
don't go out
save,
and buy a big truck.
improve your product in the off season, and you reinvest as a company. So
Yeah.
that's for IAs. What's funny now is, unfortunately, a very broad statement. So let me asterisk, this is a broad statement that's not applicable across the board, but something that I've seen a big trend of is carriers are having a hard time training. Why? Well, because, hi, I want to be an IA. So I'm going to act like I don't want to be an IA. I'm going to sign up and I'm going to take a job for a carrier. They're going to
Mm.
invest 6 months in training, and I am immediately going to go
Wow.
somewhere else or be an independent. That is a massive trend. That's actually, unfortunately, I
That
mean,
is terrible.
a lot of carriers that I work with, we talk about that, on the side. It's like, it's hard because obviously, we
Mhm.
want our people to be the best at what they do. But
Yeah.
man, is it hard to spend $30,000 and train somebody just to have them leave day 2 after training? It's
That's
extremely
that's
challenging, and so
disappointing. That's
it is.
disappointing. But it's desperate. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
desperate for the training and it's just not there, because there are courses you can go to. I've never taken any of those in-person courses or
Mhm,
anything, so I can't speak on that.
mhm,
But to me, it seems like even after they're done, the adjuster has done that course, there is still a lack. There's still something lacking.
mhm.
What what can be done to what can be done? What is the solution to that? Is it to have stuff like this? Is it to have just going to invest in yourself, saving that money, or
Yeah,
investing from the get-go,
yeah.
you
You
know?
know, I keep going back and, I'll keep using the word accountability, and I say this not from a I wanna make sure that, the folks that are watching this, they don't see this as, kind of like, "Well, you should have done." Accountability is one of the most powerful tools that you can have in life.
Yeah,
When you become accountable for your journey, you are no longer a victim to your environment. You are, in fact, the puppet master. You
I love
can
that.
articulate every step of your journey. You can lay the railroad tracks to exactly where you want to go. When you own your
Mhm,
own situation and your own problems and your own path, you're not a victim to it. So I think it really seriously just comes back down to that.
yeah,
If you become accountable, there are some amazing training programs out there. I know that Adjuster Pro. I know MoCat. I mean, I
mhm.
know some extremely, and there's a laundry list. And I and maybe tag Calvin over there at MoCat and let him know that
Yeah,
same thing.
he needs to come
Yeah,
on one day.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there are resources there.
Mhm.
So no one can tell me, or say, well, they're not, they don't
Absolutely.
exist. They do
They
exist.
do.
But you can't sit here if you're a new adjuster, you can't sit here and say, "Well, no one has picked me yet, and it's
Mhm.
their fault, and there's nothing I can do about it."
That's
If
right.
you're going to start in this industry, you are an entrepreneur now.
I
Make
love
no
that.
mistake.
That's right.
You did not just get your adjuster's license. You have embarked on an entrepreneurial journey to open, start, and
Mhm.
run your company. And with that in mind, there's no difference than you opening up a pizza shop down the street.
Mhm.
Right? If you open up a
It's
pizza shop and you
interesting.
don't put a sign out and you don't have an oven and you sit there and get mad because no one comes in,
Well, what do
you
you
got a microwave. You're microwaving pizzas with no sign. What do you do? No one wants that pizza.
I love that advice. I
You
love
know?
that. It is so true.
Yeah,
It's you are running a business, and in a business you have to invest in these tools, the your supplies, your product, you have to perfect that product because nobody's going to want to buy your product
yeah.
if it's you know, if it's crappy. You need
And,
that good product. And with that good product comes that value like you talked about. It's show that value. And let me ask you this too. We're going to start closing down in a little
yeah,
bit,
yeah,
but what when you have that low fee schedule
yeah.
of the I don't know, I don't want to say a number because I feel so I
Sure.
don't want to say a number, but a
Yeah,
lower fee schedule to go out and do an adjustment or inspection, do your inspection, take your photos, get your sketch, write your estimate, and maybe just do a short report. Do you still provide that same quality service as you would if you were getting a higher fee schedule? Or do you go, well, you're only paying me half, so I'm only going to give you half the effort?
yeah. It depends on if you want to be here for a year or be here for a lifetime.
Mhm.
It's as simple as that. We have to remember this. And I get pretty passionate about this, and maybe even
Mhm.
comes off as I don't know what it comes off as, but it's something that's very passionate to me. I
Yeah.
don't care about a fee schedule.
Mhm.
There is someone's life
Mhm.
that has been negatively impacted. A tornado has just torn, when I started in this space, and I remember I was in Wiley, Texas, 2014. something
Hmm.
like that. 2014. If
Hmm.
there's some folks in the audience here, Wiley, Texas, massive hail, softball size hail breaking through, the sheathing into the second floor, and
Hmm.
just talking to families that are that are huddled, under their stairs, saying, "I thought this was the last time I was going to hold my family."
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
is the only thing that matters here.
Yeah.
The fee schedule is a choice. You
Hmm.
made the decision to say yes.
That's right.
You made an active decision to accept that fee schedule.
I
At
love
that
that. You
point,
did.
only thing that matters is
Hmm.
that you are now called to a higher level of service. You are now the person, probably the only one who's going to be there on site meeting with that family, and you are the person who is building the ship and letting that ship leave port
Hmm.
for that person's financial recovery. So
That's
if you believe
right.
that your level of compassion, empathy, and service to people
Hmm.
who thought they were going to die that night
Hmm.
is based off the money, the level of money that you made the conscious decision to accept,
Yep.
then I'm going to be, unfortunately, frank shame on you.
No, I love how you worded that. I, I love that because yes, of course there comes a time where yeah, I'm traveling, I need to make sure my expenses are covered, am I going to be able to afford this? I completely get that. But like you said, once you accept that storm, that tour and you that's your fee schedule, you're providing the service that it's your name on the line.
Yeah,
And that's what I tell these adjusters is that your name means everything in
mhm,
this business.
yeah,
And we talk. If
yeah,
I have one bad report and I'm like, okay, maybe this adjuster had a bad day because I had bad we all have bad days and I
sure,
try to, call them up. What's going on here? I
yeah,
know I see this report. Either if I know the adjuster, it's not like you. What's
yeah,
going on?
yeah,
And just
sure,
picking up that phone and
absolutely,
talking to that adjuster, and maybe you need to give them that snap of reality going, oh my gosh, this isn't my product, this isn't what I
yeah,
want want people to know me as. But
yeah,
when you start giving that poor quality report, guess what? I call my coworker Oscar and say, Oscar, did you see so and so's report
yeah,
from this company? We can't have this.
yeah,
And we all talk.
yeah,
And it's
and it,
not and it's not
yeah,
necessarily like we're not trashing we're not trashing anyone. We're just saying, look, we expect this level of service. This person doesn't want to provide it or can't provide it, and we need it.
yeah,
So you have to show up no matter what that fee schedule
absolutely.
is that you no, I love that.
Yeah, and it's again, go back to you're running a business, and so
Yeah.
if you're starting a lawn mowing business, and you're my son's turned 14, and he mows lawns, and when he started, he was awful. It was bad, as anyone would, right? I mean, it's just like
Yeah.
when you first start
Yeah,
doing
it's
it, but then
yeah.
when he learned his processes and his procedures and those type of
Mhm.
things, he started off charging $15 for a lawn. That's a relatively inexpensive cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now he's in a place where he has all of his equipment, he has a trailer, he has everything he needs, and he services really nice neighborhoods, and he charges $45 for a lawn every week.
That's
And
awesome.
there's no difference in being an IA. If you are getting started and the value proposition is low, you're running a
Mhm.
business, and so you need to determine in your business if you're willing to charge lower rates, because it's
Mhm.
not that an IA firm is only giving you a low fee schedule. And
Mhm.
it's using that instance,
Mhm.
you're looking at it wrong. It's not the
Mhm.
IA firm giving you a low fee schedule. It is
Mhm.
you accepting a lower charge for your services.
Mm.
You're selling your services at a discount. That's all it is, right?
Yeah.
the shop down the streets at $30 a pie, and you're selling it for 15. It's
Mhm.
not that they are giving you a low fee schedule. It's simply you are selling your services at a
You are selling your
discount
services.
because
Wow.
perhaps you're newer and you're trying to learn the pace. But
Mhm.
if you stay with that firm out of convenience, if you don't invest in your education and become a better adjuster, you can't express concern over consistently accepting a low fee schedule. When I started, my fee schedule wasn't great. It was reasonable, but I recognized that my value was higher as I was investing in my education and my knowledge, and so I actively sought organizations that had clients that had commercial exposure, that had higher fee schedules, that wanted a higher level of service, and forcefully put myself in uncomfortable positions to increase my skill set so that I could access the higher fee schedules. I'll be very clear. There are plenty of very, very, very fair, reasonable, good fee schedules out there.
Mhm.
Plenty of them.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
just like, if you're not going to provide the service that is equitable to
Mhm.
that fee schedule, then, you're not gonna have access to it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, even when I first started, I was like, man, if I broke this down, I spend 2 hours on site on an inspection. I spend an hour writing
Yes.
everything up, hour and a half, and
Yep.
I made 400, $500. Well, I mean, that's a pretty good hourly rate, at least back then. And
Yeah,
it's
you start doing the math and you're like, well, wait a second. The hourly rate went down. What's going on with that?
No, it's just, it all comes back as it relates. I mean, the biggest takeaway that I would say for an IA, if you're getting started and as you're advancing into this space and as you're navigating these evolving changes in our industry, start with accountability. And I don't mean that in a
Mhm.
negative way. Use it as a superpower. Articulate where you want to be in the industry, articulate what type of an adjuster you want to be in 10 years, back that down to where you're at, and set milestones for your career progression. If you want to be in Main Street Commercial in 2 years, begin building relationships with organizations that are handling Main Street Commercial. Be on LinkedIn, connect with
Yep.
insurance carriers. When I was an IA, on LinkedIn, I would just go to the claims manager for a carrier I knew had the exact exposure that I wanted. I would just send them
Mhm.
a note and just say, "Hey, obviously I want to serve, love to service you. Who are the vendors that you're working for?" And I
I
do it in a
love
very
that.
meaningful way, a non-threatening way. They're
That
happy
is
to tell
perfect.
you because they looked at my content and they said, "Oh, this guy is here for the right reasons. I want him
Yes.
working for me." I
Yes.
want, the carrier wants you to work for him, and so he's going to give you the access.
That's so smart.
You take accountability, you
Mhm.
use it as a superpower, you articulate and create a business plan, set milestones for your career progression, invest in your education throughout, and you will get where you're going.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
used to I used to whitewater kayak, and going in through a rapid, a large river,
Mhm.
heavy rapids. I'm in a tiny boat with a simple paddle. There's one rule:
Simple paddle.
where
Yeah.
you look is where
Mhm.
you'll go.
Where you look is
If
where
you
you go.
look at the rock, you're going to hit it. If you look at where you shouldn't be, you're going to be there. So even when
Mhm.
the river is wild and the rapids are crashing all around you, your only job is to look at exactly where you need to go. And your body, the inertia and everything else in you will get you there. It's the same
That is
thing here.
amazing. You know what? You're wise. You're wise for, we won't tell anyone how old you are, but you're wise for your age. 'Cause no, I know you
I,
recently
I, I,
celebrated a milestone, so
it hurts when I get up. So that's how old
it's
I am.
hey, sometimes it hurts me too, but here we are.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Josh, this has been, I don't want to take too much longer because
of
I
course.
think we're at time, but is there anything that we haven't talked about that you really want this new age of
Yeah.
adjusters, to really know and kind of leave with?
Know your why.
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
Why are you here?
Why are you here? Hmm.
This is a hard job. Service takes a toll. I don't care if you're a police officer, you're a firefighter, you're in
Hmm.
the military. Don't get it wrong. Responding to people in their darkest moment and
Hmm.
being the gateway to their financial recovery is an act of service. It is a beautiful thing and it is a very high calling.
I love that.
When you are getting into this space, understand why you're here. If you're here for the wrong reasons, I promise you that technology, AI, all the things, they are going to outpace you. I promise you that. We didn't touch on a lot of that, but I promise you that
Hmm.
that automation, AI, smart contracts, insurance of thing, internet of things, all of those things are going to outpace you if you are there to make a quick buck, a fast buck,
Mhm.
and you're not here to actually serve people when they need you the most. Um,
Exactly.
for those that are here and you know your why and you understand what really matters to you, align your business practices, your investments, and your business plan to align as close as possible to the reason and the why that you want to be here. Because, the people say if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's true here.
Mm.
This is a hard job. But if you care about the people that you serve, and you care about them so much that you're willing to heavily invest in your own education and invest in your own career, advancement, so that when you show up on their doorstep, you are very equipped to service them to the fullest extent possible.
Oh yeah.
You'll always have a seat at the table. You'll be able to dictate what room you're in.
I love
Build
that.
your business, market your business, understand your value proposition, and understand why you're here. And if you're here for the right reasons and you do those things, then you will be here. AI will
Yeah,
not be an impact to you. In fact, it'll only be used as an amazing tool that you
that's
can
right.
leverage to provide so much additional value to the people that you serve every day.
That's right. And I'm glad that you touched on the AI. And I think you hit it hit the nail right on the head with the AI. Is that, yeah, it's a tool. You need to know how to use the tool. The tool does not use you,
Mhm.
and you provide the value with using the tools. I think
Absolutely.
that's fantastic, and we've hit on so many good things, good advice for these new adjusters and the adjusters that maybe just kind of feel a little stuck,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe like in a little bit of a rut.
Yeah.
Knowing
Even if
your
you've been
why.
here for 10 years, 15 years,
Mhm.
20 years, and you need like what to do now, the same advice
Exactly.
is, be accountable. You're running a business. If you're an IA, you're running
Mhm.
a business, articulate what that business needs to do over a period of time, create a timeline, create milestones, and walk yourself
Mhm.
there with purpose.
And
The same,
challenge yourself.
if you're comfortable, I promise you, if I use all the
Oh,
things,
yes.
if you can do it in your sleep, then I
Yes.
promise you someone is trying to create technology to sell to replace you.
Mhm.
Consistently advance your knowledge. Be uncomfortable, because I'll tell you what, people don't hire because of knowledge. People hire because of your why. And if they know that you're here for the right reasons, they're going to put you in the places to serve the policy, serve policyholders. Carriers want people that care about their customer. Period.
That's right.
And so, even if you might not know your way around it, if you're here for the right reasons, you're going to figure it out. You're not going to let that
Mhm.
claim go
No.
back to the carrier until you have done every little bit. You've called 5 of your, commercial buddies. You've round tabled it once or twice, and you make sure that that product is perfect.
I love that. I love that. And I
Absolutely.
think we'll
Now, thank you so much for having me.
end
This
on
was
that.
this was really fun. I mean,
Yeah, this
I
was
and I love the audience. The audience has been great. Seriously,
yes,
I love
all of the
I love seeing all the the support for this platform, the support for
absolutely.
what you're doing. That again,
Mhm.
seriously, thank you so much for what you're
Yeah,
doing. This
thank you.
matters, and you can
Thank you.
see with those who have spent their evening with us tonight. That
Yeah.
this really does matter. So I look forward to seeing your next appearance. Steve Badger, love Steve. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
He's a little firecracker, and
I love him. Yeah,
I
he's a
love it.
yep,
I can't wait for the questions to come in for
yeah.
that. Hopefully you ask one of the questions, Josh. I'd love to see you pick his brain. And yeah, I think we'll end on that note. I'll see everybody on April 17th. And thanks again, Josh, for your service and for everything that you did tonight. So
Well,
appreciate you.
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Good night, everyone.
Good night.